New details emerge about Daunte Wright as the mainstream media continues to inflame racial tensions. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest information coming out about the 20-year-old who was shot by a police officer in the Minneapolis area, how it reveals the rather myopic reporting by the mainstream media, and we're going to take a look at a study that explains why the media continues to push narratives that inflame racial tensions. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve, wonderful to be with you. As always, we're here to help you every single day, trying to make sense of this crazy world we're living in, help you to think better so you can live better in these trying and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, I'd appreciate you smacking that bell and subscribe button. And also, we'd really appreciate you sharing these videos with your friends and your loved ones. That'll mean a ton. Before we begin, I'm sure you know, but athletes, celebrities, high performers, they're all going keto, right? This is the diet that's being praised around the world because it's widely effective at boosting metabolism, elevating energy, enhancing mental focus. But for many, including me, it's extremely difficult diet to follow, getting rid of all the carbs, the bread. So if you want the benefits of elevated ketone levels, but without actually having to do all the difficult parts of the keto diet, you'll want Keto Elevate. I've used it myself. I put it in my coffee every morning. It tastes great and curbs my appetite for hours. Now, if you click on that link below, you can get your very own first shipment of Keto Elevate on its way to you right now at a whopping 51% off the regular price. But do not wait. Click on that link below and reap the rewards that Keto Elevate can bring to your life today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. We've got some new details emerging about Daunte Wright, the 20-year-old black man that was shot and killed by a police officer in a Minneapolis suburb over the weekend. According to Fox News, we now know that he had an open warrant for his arrest related to an aggravated armed robbery attempt. According to Hennepin County District Court documents, Wright and another man identified as Emma J. Maurice Driver, a high school acquaintance, had both been charged with first-degree aggravated robbery in a December 2019 incident in Acesso, Minnesota. Now, according to the documents, Wright and Driver went to a party at an apartment just a few miles outside of Brooklyn Center where he was actually fatally shot over this weekend. The apartment was being rented by two women, and Wright and his friend, his fellow driver, they reportedly spent the night there at the apartment because they didn't have a ride to go home. In the morning, one of the two women left the apartment to get over $800 in cash to pay a roommate for rent and then left for work. And that is when Wright and his buddy allegedly pulled a black handgun out, pointed at the women, and demanded the money. And when the woman resisted, Wright allegedly began to choke her while trying to pull the cash from under her bra where she had tucked it away. According to the court documents, she was able to pry herself loose and started to kneel down and scream, which caused Wright to allegedly try to choke her again and take her money. And as it turns out, they failed, and they jumped in a white Cadillac and sped away without the money. The woman later positively identified both Wright and Driver in photo lineups. So Wright was arrested. He was later released on bail, but that bail was revoked in July of last year because he allegedly possessed a firearm and was not keeping in touch with his probation officer. This according to Fox News, which leads us then to this past Sunday. When Wright was pulled over for having an expired license plate, police discovered that his case was still pending. And so when police then tried to arrest him on an outstanding warrant after failing to appear in court on charges that he fled from officers and possessed a gun without a permit during an encounter with Minneapolis police back in June, the body cam footage showed that when an officer attempted to handcuff him, Wright pried himself loose and tried to jump back into his car, and that is when Officer Kimberly A. Potter, 25-year veteran with the Brooklyn Center Police Department, mistakenly pulled out her gun when she clearly meant to tase him. Officer Potter has since been taken into custody. She is being charged with second-degree manslaughter and is awaiting trial. But for the residents in the Minneapolis area, in this Brooklyn Center area, they are not waiting for any trial. They've decided to take matters into their own hands, and they continue to destroy neighborhoods and loot storefronts throughout the area. Fox News is reporting that members of the radical far leftist group Antifa have indeed infiltrated the scene in Brooklyn Center as the third night of rioting continued last night, where police and agitators faced off once again with more arrests in the process. So I'm sure with Antifa's involvement here, we can expect peace and calm to settle upon the city in no time, right? Yeah, good luck. So once again, like we talked about in yesterday's video, once again, we've got riots breaking out after police shoot someone who has quite the criminal record. Our good friend Andy No did some investigating right after Wright was shot, and he posted on his Twitter feed pictures of Wright from his Facebook page. And as it turns out, Wright's Facebook page is filled with pictures of him flashing gang signs, using drugs, showing off cash. He may even indeed have been a gangbanger, but you know, you wouldn't know that from the picture that the mainstream media is using. They seem to prefer to show pictures of Wright with his baby son, which of course, certainly brings home the tragic nature of this whole incident. But left to its own, such optics obviously turned blind to equally relevant parts of his life, most especially the whole reason why he was being arrested in the first place and the motive for why he tried to avoid arrest. It reminds me very much of the whole Trayvon Martin situation several years back. If you recall, the 17-year-old black teen was shot and killed by George Zimmerman. And right after the shooting, the mainstream media posted pictures of Martin when he was younger, and he looked so cute and innocent and sweet. And at first it just seemed like the shooting, by just the optics, it was obviously totally unjustified. I mean, you even had President Obama back then say that upon seeing the picture, he realized that Trayvon could have been his own son. You know, all that. But then the toxicology report was made public, and we found out that he had drugs in his system. And it was eventually revealed that Martin's life had taken a turn a couple of years prior, a turn certainly not for the better. And that's when pictures surfaced of, well, again, shall we say, depicting a bit more of an aggressive and menacing young man than the original innocent picture. And then we found out why he wasn't in school that day, the day he was shot. And that's because he had a history of being suspended for fighting and all of that. So, look, I think we're seeing a bit of a comparable picture here with Wright. But why is the question? Why does the media do this? Why does the media seem so intent on fanning the flames of racial tensions in our nation? Now, before we answer that, make sure to click on the link below and register for our upcoming New Conservative Patriot Live Benefit Conference, which we're holding this weekend, Friday and Saturday, on April 16th and 17th. It is a virtual conference, so you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home, and you can secure your seat simply by clicking on the link below. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on what you and I can do together to rise up against woke cancel culture and build back the world that we know and love together. And we're going to be answering a question that patriots have been asking for a long time now. What do? I know things may be moving in our direction. I know that left-wing liberalism is more unpopular than ever. I know that patriot movements and leaders are rising up all over the world. But in the meantime, with Sleepy Joe, what do? And for the first time ever, we're going to devote an entire 2-day conference to answering that question, what we can do to secure our freedoms from woke insanity once and for all. Now, tickets are going fast. Seating is limited. So if you want to secure your seat, make sure to click on the link below, because ticket prices are going up right before the Patriot Live event. So don't miss it. Click on that link below. And I'll see you for a weekend that promises to be a game changer in our lives like never before. All right, I'm very appreciative of a piece by the scholar Eli Steele, who traces back the history of what's come to be known as this whole notion of white privilege, right? And he actually roots the origins of the term to both the election of Barack Obama and the whole Trayvon Martin saga. It's a very interesting piece. And what Steele argues here is that the election of Barack Obama back in 2008 was actually very threatening to cultural Marxists. Ironic, I know, but it was so threatening because the election of Obama threatened to overturn their narrative that America was an irredeemably racist nation. They were actually threatened by this notion that we can all now more or less move on from our supposed racist past and the like because we voted for the first black president. So What advocates of cultural Marxism had to do is they had to go about each and every day proving that America was still a radically racist nation. And so Eli Steele points to the shooting death of Trayvon Martin, this is back in 2012, as an example of this deliberate attempt, particularly by the mainstream Marxist media, as we like to call them, to cast the shooting in thoroughly racial terms. So if you recall, Martin, of course, is black kid who was shot and killed by George Zimmerman. Zimmerman was himself part white and part Peruvian. Now, in the normal course of identity politics, okay, Zimmerman would be, checking off the Hispanic box if you're applying for college or whatever. But this got turned on its head when Zimmerman became the oppressor, when he became the shooter. And so, in a deliberate attempt by the corporatist globalist media to push a cultural Marxist grievance politics narrative, they recast Zimmerman as a white Hispanic. That was the term they used over and over for him. They actually made up a term. Zimmerman was a white Hispanic, and it was a clear case of pushing a white on black crime narrative by the mainstream Marxist media. So the point here is that the left is under extreme pressure to try to find examples of racism everywhere they can and even invent them like they did with Zimmerman or with the Covington High School students that marched for life in DC a couple of years back. They have to find or invent as much racism as they can in order to justify the continuation of their cultural Marxist grievance politics. And this is getting harder and harder because studies show that overt racism has been on the steady decline over the last 40 years. The British scholar Matthew Goodwin has detailed this extensively. For example, the majority of people surveyed 40 years ago on interracial marriage were opposed to it. Today, the vast majority of people surveyed are all for interracial marriage. 40 years ago, a majority didn't want to live next door to someone of a different ethnicity. Today, a supermajority has no problem with it. Study after study shows that we're actually becoming less racist, not more. And so the mainstream media is going to continue to have to fabricate racially divisive narratives. As we see here with Daunte Wright, they're certainly not failing to disappoint. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, subscribe to my channel. Definitely click on the link below and check out some of our awesome merch. And you'll definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on Project Veritas dropping a bombshell on CNN. One of the directors is caught on hidden camera admitting that the supposed news network is, in fact, propaganda. You are not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.